Hello, everybody. Welcome.
Hello, hello.
Hello.
All right. How is everyone today?
Good, good.
Fine.
Good. I
Good
am going
evening.
to share my screen now. And let's see. Can you guys
Um,
see the screen?
yes, ma'am.
Yes.
We
Okay.
can
What do
see
y'all
screen,
see?
a whole screen, the
Mm,
whole power, I'm sorry, whole PowerPoint spread.
Oh,
A
your
whole PowerPoint.
PowerPoint?
Okay.
I've got to
Everything.
get on my.
Not in
Okay.
PowerPoint mode, but just your PowerPoint.
Okay. Hold on just a second. Let me move it over. Ah, okay. Hang on. Let's
I can
stop
see
this.
adjustments.
Yeah. Okay. Let's stop that. Okay. Here we go again to share. And this is the screen that I need. Okay, now can you see it?
Yes.
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 Perfect. Awesome. Awesome. All right. It is, let's see what time it is, because on my clock it says 6:01. So we'll go ahead and get started with some of the housekeeping rules. Um, Please make sure that your camera is on at all times. Attendance is based on that. Your camera must be on. You must be in the camera frame. We need to see you. So if your camera is off, if you are not in the frame, if we cannot see your face, you will not receive credit for this class. So please make sure that you are there at all times.
Oh gosh.
Attendance is taken randomly. I don't even know when attendance will be taken tonight. So please, 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 please have those cameras on and be in the camera frame. Also, questions tonight will be through our Q&A. The chat has been disabled. So, we want you to give our speaker tonight all of your attention. So please use, if you have any questions, please use the Q&A function. Lastly, please make sure that your name tag shows or reflects your name that we have on file. So if you go by, um, I don't know, Kitty, then have your, if it's Catherine, Kitty, and then the last name, please just make sure that the name that you go by is in quotation marks. And again, attendance is taken randomly. I do not know when that attendance will be given. Points will be based off of your full attendance. So I will get a report. Zoom gives me a report of how many minutes you have been in class, and it will be based on full attendance, that you're here the full time. Again, cameras on, and that you are in the frame. So let's kick this off. Our first um, topic will be on scholarships. And Miss Savannah.
All right. So we have a great section in the student portfolio where we update all of the scholarships that get emailed to us all in one place. So it's easy for you guys to locate and apply to those. And so if you go in your student portfolio, you can select the discussions tab that Miss Olga has so nicely highlighted here. And then you can see the scholarship opportunities there. I always try to include a little blurb about it, and then I also include the attachment if they provide one, as well as a URL on how to find the website to apply. So always take advantage of those. It's a small community, and so you can really kind of up your chances. If you'll go in there and apply, the chances are pretty good for you to be able to get awarded something.
Absolutely. I've had scholarships in the past from the associations that I've been a part of, and $1,000 scholarships and one applicant. So the one applicant is going to get that money. So, please go in there, please fill those out. Read the requirements because some of them do have certain requirements of having a certain GPA or being a certain point in your
Can't get my camera to
program.
work.
All right. Our next topic will be handled by Miss Carrington.
Hello, everybody. I just wanted to take a moment as we're getting started tonight and just remind you that it's very important to abide by all the testing requirements when you're taking a proctored test. That starts with a thorough environment scan showing us your area. We have a video that you can watch that I demonstrated what a proper environment scan will show. And again, the purpose is to ensure that you don't have any books or notes close by, that your phone is not close by. And trust me, I understand we all use our phones all day long, every day. These are kind of like a leash for us. So you may have it next to your mouse pad and not even notice. So just be aware and be intentional about putting your phone away before you start your exam, because the last thing we want is for silly misunderstandings to end up in you having points deducted. So it starts with the environment scan. Make sure that your microphone is enabled so that audio can be recorded for the proctor. That also, again, helps to cover you and protect you, because if the proctor can hear, then it prevents some misunderstandings. If you're looking away from your screen, but they hear clacking on the keyboard, then they're going to know that you're just looking away to type. So that's why it's important to have your microphone enabled. Also, if you're reading questions out loud to yourself, because some students do that and it's okay. If the microphone's enabled, we can hear you read to yourself, but we can hear that no one's responding. So it's again just a way to cover you and to provide more transparency and integrity for the testing process. But there are unfortunate situations where students do cheat, and we are able to tell, and we do fail you on the exam. I mean, we just go in and take out whatever score you got and give you a 0. And it's literally the least favorite part of my job. But we watch for those things because we want to make sure that you are
Yes,
learning, you
but
are
I'll have this
receiving the
other one.
information, and you are ready to take your comprehensive exams at the end. So this is just a reminder, to keep doing what you're doing, keep doing well, don't cheat, don't even be tempted to cheat. Students can do well on every exam throughout the semester. They get to the final exam and they feel stressed, they pull out the phone, and then they fail the class. Please don't do that. Just do your work, study, and go through your classes with integrity. We appreciate you all. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Carrington. And if you want further information of what our policy is, you can find this information in your student, in the Funeral Service Education Student Handbook. Um, it's just setting you guys up for success. Remember, our profession is a very delicate profession. We handle a lot of sensitive information. So it's just creating behaviors, good ethical behaviors, from this point forward throughout your career. All right, Ms. Schertz, we'll talk to you about our student portfolio updates.
Good evening, everyone. I just wanted to take a few minutes to remind you about your student portfolio. If you're not actively in clinicals right now, this may be the furthest thing from your mind, but it's important that you check in here, like Ms. Taves showed you earlier, where the scholarships are posted. Job postings are in there as well. But I wanted to make sure that you all were aware that you need to keep your information updated in here. So as you receive your hepatitis B vaccines, boosters, things like that, you should come here and upload it. If you've had any medical insurance changes, please be sure to upload a new medical card. As well as any employment changes. So there's an employment form that I would like for you to keep updated. And additionally, there's a spot for you to upload photos of provisional or trainee license that you may be receiving as you work through the program. If you have any questions about the student portfolio, please feel free to reach out to me. I'm glad to help. But over the summer months would be a great time to update that information as you have access to your student portfolio year round. Thank you, Ms. Scott.
Thank you, Ms. Schertz. And talking about your student portfolio, under the grade book section, that is where we keep all of your grades. This is where you know what classes are still pending, how many classes you still have left to complete your program. I will be working on course schedules this month. I hope to have them out by the end of April, early May. So if you receive one end of April, early May, that's great. That means everything was in order and I was able to move forward. If you do not receive one in that time period, it is because you may not be passing your midterms. If you aren't passing your midterms at this point, then know, kind of make a note of it that you will not receive a course schedule until final grades are posted. Final grades are posted on, let's see, I think that is, let me take a look real quick what that date will be. Um, Spring ends. Okay, so spring ends on the 16th. So it will be the Wednesday after that is when I will have access to your final grades. So it may be the late part of May before you see your course schedule. I will try to hurry as much as I can because I know that some of you will have some summer classes. Also, for summer classes, please note that that is general education classes only. So if you've already passed your gen eds that are required for the program, you will not have any summer classes. You will just have funeral service classes, which are only offered in the spring and in the fall. Let's see. Remember, funeral service students do not self-register for classes. It's the same process every semester. So I will email you your course schedule. You'll look over it. And then if you agree, you just email me back and say, I agree, I accept, move forward. Any of those responses are great. And then I will go ahead and register you for your classes. It's important that you respond stating, I agree. Yes, please move forward. Don't say got it or okay, because then I have to re-email it to you and say, please confirm that you want to move forward. It just makes it easier on my end that I have an absolute yes, I accept, and we move forward, and then we'll go on to the next step. And then again, I ask for patience. There are many, many of you students. I only have half of you on here tonight. So we sit in a student body of almost 400 students. So I have to go through each one of your grades. I have to go through because I know some of you are still pending on transfer credits. And that's the time that I reach back out to the registrar and say, hey, so and so is still missing transfer credits. Did they get approved? And so on and so forth. So each of you get my undivided attention when I am building your course schedule. So please, 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 be patient. You will get your course schedule as quickly as possible. And we've got a surprise. Mr. Schmidt, do you want to speak about our surprise?
Yes, I am so happy to let everyone know, if you haven't caught it in one of your classes already, that we have some NTCC specific funeral merch available for purchase. Now, the first round of this merchandise needs to be ordered by April 13th. I have up here a QR code if you want to scan it. You can also find it under the course materials tab in the bookstore. All right, and then you will see all the different options that we have available. If you once April 13th rolls around, then we are going to be able to place our order, and it will take about 2 weeks for the for whatever you order to arrive. I would just like to put out there that if you are a person that's coming to campus for lab and you are looking for something that is appropriate, business casual, which is going to be part of your dress code, the polo shirts do fit this category. So if you're looking to upgrade your wardrobe and, of course, look really cool with our NTCC program logo on there, that is for you. All right. So you can go ahead and scan it, or you can go to the course materials tab in the bookstore and you will see the sweatshirt, the t-shirt, the polo, and the light hoodie.
Awesome. We are super excited about the new merchandise. So I hope that you guys take the opportunity to scan that QR code and submit your order. And I'll give you a few seconds for those who want to go ahead and do that. Okay. And our most important, to mark your calendars. So for those students that are in Gen Eds or PSYT, the second 8 weeks of the semester, that started on March the 23rd. So the last day to withdraw from those classes, if you're needing to withdraw, is April the 30th. For the 16-week classes, which are your MRTS classes or your funeral service classes, the last day to withdraw is April the 16th. And then finally, congratulations to our graduates. Graduation will be on Saturday, May the 16th. And so more information will be given to you, I believe, in your graduation meetings that you've been having throughout the semester. Is that correct, Ms. Schertz?
I'm sorry, can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you.
Can you ask that one more time, Miss Scott?
I said more information would be provided to the graduates during their graduation meeting that they've
Yeah.
been having throughout the semester.
Yes, on April 20th.
Okay, so April 20th is your next meeting. And also, because I've had some questions regarding the certificate graduates wanting to move on to the embalming portion of your associate's program, that will be addressed in this upcoming meeting in April. Please do not submit any applications just yet until Ms. Gardner and Ms. Schertz give you the okay, because if you submit your applications prior to that, it can jeopardize your graduation paperwork. It just creates chaos, and they're like, oh, are they graduating? Are they now starting? And we don't want to get any of your graduation stuff out of order. And also, I have a QR code. This is the academic calendar. This is where you can find it. The one for fall was just posted yesterday, so you can scan that QR code. That way you know what's coming up for the fall, when classes start, Thanksgiving, all of that. Great and fun times. Okay. And to the important part of our meeting, I would like for all of us to welcome Dion Stromer. He is with Bio Response Solutions, and he will be talking to us tonight about Aquamation. So please welcome Mr. Stromer.
Thank you. And Olga, we'll try sharing that screen.
Yes. I have stopped sharing now, and you should be able to start.
Okay, great. All right, you're seeing aqua cremation flameless up, I assume.
Yes,
Okay,
it
great.
just popped up.
Good. It's good to be with all of you. I have a special spot in my heart for you night students. Having an evening lecture, many of you worked all day. I saw some of you still driving home from work. I appreciate that dedication. I talk very fast. I try to anticipate the questions you may ask. I've got a lot of material I want to share, but we will also have time for questions at the end. But it is really good to be with you. And want to get into Aquamation. A little bit about myself, though. I've been in death care for 42 years. I apprenticed in 1984, and I actually started, as I said, the night school, University of Minnesota, in food science, switched to agribusiness, became a ranch manager in Oregon. That's where I'm coming to you from, but then met the town funeral director. He thought I might be good at it. I had some interest in high school, death of a friend, some other things led to me getting in death care. What an amazing field, an amazing profession. I'm excited for you folks. You're coming in a time well, I'll get into it in a minute. You're coming in at a great time. I'm a funeral director in Balmer. I'm a death investigator in Oregon. We call them a deputy medical examiner. And I'm also a member of DMORT. I'd love to come back and visit with you about the Disaster Mortuary Operational Response Team. It is a federal team that comes into whenever there's man-made or natural disasters, from Oklahoma City bombing, 9/11, Katrina, Puerto Rico, Hurricane Maria, airlines that have gone down, and the flooding in North Carolina up to last year. We didn't come into Texas because Texas has its own state team, but this is a federal team that can help backfill a state team. So more on that later. But let's get into our discussion tonight. I'm excited for you because in the next 3 to 5 years, the old guard, my age group, is leaving the industry. We're retiring. We're moving on, and with that, the number of deaths we're going to experience over the next 25 to 30 years is unheard of in this country. 77 million people will die of my age group. So, and you young directors, and even those that are making a career change, middle age, this is a great opportunity. I appreciate death care. From when I went to school, we had one woman in our class, and she was kind of breaking the glass ceiling. And now most classes are full of women who I think bring a certain amount of empathy, a different type of empathy. They're better event planners, and that's definitely where funeral service has gone, is being event planners, to plan that memorial, to celebrate that life. No longer is it a casket in a church service as much as some of the other things that families want done in their memorials and things. You folks understand the importance of being eco-friendly. It's a time that we do that. Even I'm finally understanding we have to take care of the earth, and that's what we're going to be talking about with Aquamation tonight. It uses 1/10 the energy of flame cremation. Also, you're becoming thanatologists. You're amateur thanatologists now, but as you go in your career, you'll become professional thanatologists. The science of death. Your instructor, Miss Carrington, teaches that psychology of death. That fascinates me. If death is as normal as birth, we all have our concerns, we have our hangups, and society definitely is going to come to know grief over the next 25 years by the sheer number of deaths that we're going to experience. But this is going to be, let me see if this is going to be a little 2-minute introduction to, I think they do a good job in this news report. I'm hoping you can hear it. If there's a problem, if you can't hear it, we'll go into where he shows the cremated remains compared to flame and aqua, and then we'll move on. And then I kind of explain, but let's see how we do. Can you hear it?
No audio.
Dang. Okay. Well, there we go. I'm just showing the difference of the carbon and the flame cremated remains and the white remains. This is the unit here that I placed in the Portland area. And the tank there, I'm going to point out because we're going to talk about that a little bit later, that you don't need with the system, but it went well for us. So it's a little news article to help promote the business when we first came to the Portland, Oregon area. Sorry, I'm talking over it. I don't know why. But I failed to mention I had a small town funeral home for years. I sold it and purchased a mortuary service in Portland, Oregon. It was a high volume mortuary service. I'm a third party vendor to funeral homes, meaning I provided hearses, motorcycle escorts, weekend embalmings, difficult embalming and repair and restorative art. We handled about 6,000 calls a year, mainly removals. We did 4,000 cremations a year. And so it was very fast paced, almost 50 deaths a day with 40 employees, a lot going on. And in Oregon, they were looking at taxing our carbon on our flame output or our carbon tax on our tonnage with our flame crematory. So why I liked and why one would be interested in it uses 1/10 the energy. You're going to hear me say that a lot tonight. Uses 1/10 the energy. So they have a 90% less carbon footprint. And in Oregon, we're tree huggers. That's important to us. And so culturally, that was important. But really what helped me look at, invest in, and put the first machine west of the Mississippi for the public was Oregon's legislature was looking at taxing our carbon output for crematories. And if I could reduce my carbon tax by 90%, that's a no-brainer. Oregon did not pass that law, neither did California or Washington. It's been set aside, but I believe it will come back with changes in administration and in time. They're very eco-friendly up here. And so with a flame crematory, you're allowed so much tonnage of use of material to enter the atmosphere with your DEQ permit. And so I was looking, how can I reduce that to save money? Right now, crematoriums, I've talking to friends that have them with the LP and gas price right now is doubled. And with the other costs that you can't control, the gas, but also the re-bricking, the repair of flame crematories. You're re-cementing a floor every so many thousands of cremations. When I was doing 4,000 a year in my 4 machines, I was rebuilding one of my machines every year at the tune of $75,000 on average. So for me, with the stainless steel system, eco-friendly, carbon footprint less, the gas is controlled amount. I don't have the ongoing cost of repairs. It's a no-brainer for me. I was very excited to be involved. A little bit about Aquamation. It was patented in 1888. It's been around a long time. It was always used in animal research. Whenever they were doing research on animals with bacteria, viruses, the prion of Creutzfeldt-Jakob with mad cow disease, pathogens, this was a way to eradicate that and also sterilize. And so it was always been used in animal research. As those new bacteria came out, I never paid, when I put the slide in years ago, I never paid attention to the coronavirus down there. That was one of those. And so it can eradicate. It's one of the ways to actually eradicate the prion of Creutzfeldt-Jakob, that folded protein. And a lot of you are young enough, you didn't remember, but those that lived in the 80s, the late 80s, in Europe, they had a mad cow breakout. Once they realized that sheep that had scabies on the pasturing on a field, then cows came in and pastured, and that would morphin when they took that up through the grass, and then would morphin into mad cow and into humans morphin into Creutzfeldt-Jakob. And so once they realized in the food chain, then to eradicate Creutzfeldt-Jakob, they would, of course, when an animal became sick, euthanize it, and then they had the 2-story vats that they could put many head of cattle in to eradicate so that they could kill that prion. Technically, maybe the cremation instructor can correct me if I'm wrong, but I've always understood that even in a flame crematory at 2,100 degrees, in Oregon, we have to get to 2,100 degrees. Every state is different. Washington, 1,600, Idaho, 1,800, Oregon, a little higher at 2,100. Even at 2,100 degrees, technically, it does not kill that prion. Just interesting. I researched it when I first heard about the University of Florida putting a machine in for their cadaver, their whole body donation and cadaver. And I don't know if they were doing research on cadavers that they wanted to eradicate something, but that's when I first heard about it. In my alma mater, University of Minnesota, put one in for their cadaver program in 2005. And then Mayo Clinic, once they put their name and stamp on Aquamation, then I realized it's here to stay. And it was a matter of when the public learns about it and the machine costs come down to when the demand for switching into the human application from animal to human. A little bit about cremation in this country. You're a little more you're in the Bible Belt, a little bit more traditional yet, but on the East and West Coast, that's not the case. In the Northwest, Washington, Oregon, California, Idaho, we run about 85% cremation rate, and that used to be a bad thing in our industry because when I learned in the industry, we all know that cremation is just a different form of disposition, burial or cremation. And the industry, I think, made a huge mistake. When I was apprentice, if it was a cremation family, I was told, oh, they don't have any money. Just get the vital statistics, get enough for the obituary, let's move on. I was never trained to offer them viewing, services, memorial. And so what's happened in time in those 40 years, cremation has become synonymous with funerals. And in Oregon, Portland, we have a 92% cremation rate. Again, not a bad thing. It's just a different form of disposition. But 50% of those do not have services. They don't see the value in it. We have cheapened the services and families are losing the tradition of. Of course, that gets into all those aspects of grief, understanding, unsettled grief, and being able to deal with. And part of that is having a service, closing that chapter, closing that period of life, taking time to mourn. We are such a fast society. Grandma died. It's kind of like a broken refrigerator. Let's not upset the grandkids. Let's move on. Let's make this happen. And that's not uncommon up at the Northwest and the far east part of the country. So appreciate your traditions because they can change. And I slowly see the pendulum swinging a little bit. More people are coming back after 2 or 3 deaths they've experienced that they're not having closure and would ask for a memorial. But I wanted to talk about flame cremation because I realized as I went to groups to talk about Aquamation that very few understood cremation. A lot of people think, and I'm estimating 40, possibly 50% of the public understand cremation to be an oven and you're baked down to ashes. That really surprised me. I thought everybody knew it was direct flame, that you were burning the soft tissue off the calcium phosphate, off the bones. And that's not so. And I think that probably comes from the Nazi oven era, that families don't want to know how it's done, the process. They just want to know what they get back, which are the cremated remains. Families call it ashes because they think it's being baked down. So I added that to my presentation because I realized people did not understand about flame cremation, that it was direct flame on the body at certain temperatures. The fuel that's used in a flame cremation, you could drive a medium average car from Portland, Oregon to Salt Lake City. I don't know, from Texas, maybe you make it to Florida. I'm not sure where 700 miles is. I saw on the internet, I Googled one time, it said you could go 3,400 miles on the gas that's used in a flame crematory, but I saw that they were using a Prius. So not fair comparison. But again, fossil fuel, the dependence on it, and we're all seeing the prices rise now. They'll come back down, but flame crematories are starting to add service surcharges because of the raise in fossil fuel. Just interesting points I wanted to make for my reasoning in purchasing and getting involved with Aquamation. The other is the calcium phosphate is left, the skeleton, the bones are left after cremation, and they've run through accumulator and processor that, of course, fragments those into cremated remains. In our industry, families call them ashes. And to me, they're more coarse, like the texture of cornmeal, where Aquamation is a little bit different because we take more of the salts out of the calcium phosphate, the bones. So in time, I believe in a generation, it could outpace flame cremation, partly because of the regulatory factors, the DEQ, air quality, the environmental part of it. Not so much maybe with this administration, but in others in the future, I believe they'll come back. Mercury in the fillings, that's always been a problem in Oregon. The tribes have fought cremation for years because of the mercury in our fillings that gather in the air, the rain, we rain a lot up here, rain and get it into the fish, and the amount of mercury that in their fishing business and industry. So just an interesting point. Also, the regulatory factors that are coming. Cremation, as you can see in the chart, very small sliver of industrial waste, but it's still part of that. Oregon looked at requiring crematories to have scrubbers, which is an answer, but that adds about $1 million to your cremation project by the time you scrub all that out to make it environmentally. And so the cost will just shoot the price up, I think, out of reach sometimes. So again, another reason for aquamation. So why water and not fire? As I said, it's gentler. Well, maybe I haven't mentioned that. It's gentler on the body. It's a jacuzzi tub effect, the water washing over the body. It's a flame cremation is harsh. That flame on a body is violent. And there's no emissions of harmful greenhouse gases, 90% less carbon footprint, energy output, as I said, 20% more ash. And you funeral directors right away are going to go, okay, if there's more cremated remains, are we going to be able to get them in an urn? Good question. You can, because it draws out more salt. Aquamation takes more salts out of the calcium phosphate to where when we process these remains, they're like powdered sugar. They compact like powdered sugar compared to cornmeal flame cremation. It's a cleaner process. Flame cremation is dirty, dusty, and this you can do in a suit, and it really is clean and easy. In Oregon, we call the process dissolution. So as I said earlier, with flame cremation, we're burning the soft tissue. In aquamation, we're dissolving the soft tissue. We dissolve the tissue down to its basic elements: amino acids, peptides, salt, sugars, and soaps. And amino acids make a great plant nutrient, and we'll talk about the wastewater from the process and what I did with it and what happens with it. So in Oregon, we just added the word dissolution to our methods of burial, cremation, removal from state, donation to a body program, or dissolution covers for aquamation. And now we've added natural organic reduction, NOR, as part of one of the offerings. So just interesting in the verbiage so that we didn't have to go to the legislature and change a lot of funeral laws. Texas does not allow aquamation. That's something we need your help with. To me, it's a no-brainer. It needs to be an offering because we want to offer to families. It's not for everybody, but they ought to have that opportunity. The other is only 7% of the country has heard of aquamation. So there's a lot of education to do. And what I did is I would go to my funeral homes, my 200 funeral homes that I served, Southwest Washington and Oregon, as a third-party vendor, and I would train the funeral directors how to present it to families, which we're going to talk about tonight, and then also I train their pre-need people because this sells really well with pre-need. It gives pre-need people something new to talk about. Families have chance to read the pamphlet, read it, look at it, understand it, and it really sells well with pre-need. Families like the idea once they understand it. They're not interested in the process so much. And tonight I'm going to get down in the nitty-gritty and the weeds of the process because I want you to feel comfortable if you had to discuss it, present it to a family, that you're confident. But sometimes with that information, you can be overwhelming to others when they're not ready to hear all that idea or how the process works. So this is a machine. We brought it into Oregon, first one west of the Mississippi, offered to the public, a high pressure machine, meaning that the number of cases we could do in a day. Those are my sons, who my general manager and my CFO, my chief financial officer. I had to try it on for size to see how it was going to fit. A little bit of my mortuary service in the back. There's my motorcycles, a few vans, those kind of things. But we're a warehouse situation. A little bit about the machine. To me, it almost looks Artemis 2-ish. It's almost space age looking. The inside, you have this down the center where the water sprays and the alkalinity sprays upon the body. There's a propeller at the end that helps move that water, and then these heating coils that help keep that temperature about 302 degrees. And we'll talk about that a little bit more. This is a machine I brought in Portland. Again, kind of space agey looking, I think. Also, they build in redundancy. It's like a plug and play unit. It's like if you had to repair your dishwasher, now you pull out a pump and put in a pump. You take out a valve and put in a valve. I'm kind of somewhat mechanical, so I like that kind of stuff. They're not complicated is what I'm trying to say. This is the machine we put in, and I had a woman that called me. She was terminal. This is before before the machine went in. It hadn't arrived yet, but Iris Green was her name. She was a science teacher in Eugene, Oregon, and she was terminal. And those are always interesting conversations to have when you talk in death care with someone who is terminal. There is just raw and to the point, and they look at the world in a different way. I've had that experience several times. Oregon allows the death by dignity. Euthanasia. We've done it for 30 years. I've had people call me. I understand you're going to be the company that will handle my body. I had one gentleman say one day, do you want to bring by a body bag and I can just slip in the body bag when I take my medicine? And I said, no, that wouldn't be, we wouldn't need to do that. Well, he went ahead and put himself in his shower curtain. He put it upon his bed so that he came in wrapped in a shower curtain. Interesting conversations. I had that with Iris. Iris heard about this process, wanted it done. And so we dedicated the machine to her and we called it the Green Machine. And you can't make that human interest story up. She was a science teacher in life and a science teacher in death. Her daughters were just fascinated by the process. A little bit about the process. To me, it actually mimics earth burial closer than it does cremation. And I mean that because what happens in the grave, if you put a body right next to the soil, over time is hydrolysis. And the scientific name of is alkaline hydrolysis. And so we're adding alkalinity and the hydrolysis to break down of cells with the water. And that's what happens in a green burial if it's right next to the soil. It takes a little longer. This does it in 3 hours. And so that process is the same, but because we have the calcium phosphate, the bones that are left, then we run them the process and give them to the family. So it seems more like cremation. I understand how they've come up with aqua cremation, but actually scientifically to me, it mimics earth burial. So this kind of gives you an idea. The body's placed in the chamber, the stainless steel chamber, and what comes out is a calcium phosphate. These I call bone shadows. They look like hard, long bones, but they're very fragile. If you were to put a little pressure with your hand on that, they'll just fall into sand. They're very fragile, but fascinating how all the soft tissue is removed. And then what's left, of course, if you have surgical instruments, hip or knee replacements, they'll be present there. Oh, there's my slide. So flame cremation, a little bit different. The carbon on the left. Then with aquamation, they look like the day they went in. This hip joint just automatically cleaned off. The recyclers love this stuff. Flame cremation, you have to remove pacemakers. That's always part of what a cremationist does, is to remove that pacemaker, or they'll blow up in a flame crematory. Aquamation, you don't have that problem, but you see the little stents, the wires, of course, the bigger surgeries, the hip and joint and knee, all comes out cleaner, the recyclers, and that's what happens with this titanium that we take out. It's gone to a recycler, and again, to be recycled. The flame cremated remains or aquamation remains are white in color. They're more like powdered sugar, and you don't want to confuse grandma with the rest of the things in the house. This is our machine we put into Portland. Again, space age. The water tank I'm going to talk about in just a minute, but this is one picture I had of my maintenance man, Carl, who helped me put this machine in. And Carl, he babied that machine. That was his baby. He polished it every day. That was his machine he operated. Well, about a year in, after having the machine up and running, Carl got sick with cancer. And he called me over the holiday at Christmas and said, hey, I see there's a couple people needing to come in. I'll hit you. I don't know. Nope, sorry, that's not my job. I'll stay away from that. Okay. But Carl, cancer, and his doctor told him he had 2 weeks. It was that far advanced. And he lived exactly 13 days. But in my last visit with Carl, he asked me to put me in Iris. And, I've even taken care of my own cousins and family. You'll do that in this industry. And I would remind you, for your own behavioral health, your mental health, take some time off after you've worked with someone real close. You need to process that and digest that. But that was Carl. I'm going to show you how the machine, after it finished processing, if you hear noise in the background, that's my 4 crematories running. This is my cremationist, Tia. And she's just removing one now. I just see it open, and then I'm going to go up ahead here while she gets it unloaded. She has a little bit of problems lining it up, and so I'm not going to waste your time with that. And right there, she gets it lined up. So this process we just run, a woman, she was about 110 pounds. And you can see at the bottom of the tray, we put it in the cage that captures the calcium phosphate. So one person can handle this. My office staff was trained to run an aquamation. It's that simple. So you see the calcium phosphate, the bones that are left there, and they're moist. They're not drippy wet, but they're moist. They're kind of like when you're working services and the florist puts those flowers in those little green styrofoam to keep them moist. That's kind of what they're like. So you actually dry them, and I used to dry them in a convection oven. Now some people said, well, that's kind of a second step to cremation, and to me, it's not really, because with flame cremation, you rake that chamber out, and those cremated remains, or those remains, have to cool for an hour at least. And so before you could process them, they need to dry in a convection oven 20 to 40 minutes. So just difference in processing. Whoops, sorry. We'll go here. Now I'm going to give you a trade secret, you young people in death care. I wish I'd have found this 20 years ago. I wish I was younger. Pets are the new and upcoming thing in death care. We love our children. I have 8 of them, all with one woman, Amy, 47 years. And we love our kids, but they give us some grief sometimes. Our pets, unconditional love. And that's where this has gone in our industry, especially in the Northwest. This is a pet funeral home that I opened. We got into pets a few years before I sold my business. I actually had a retired priest that would put on pet services. I had a chapel you could bring your pets to chapel services. And some of you may think that's really strange. It's not. I've even been to a home to dig the grave in the backyard. The family was too upset to dig the grave. So pet care is huge. And this is my 2 daughters on each side, Colleen and Toby, and my manager, Rebecca, in the middle, as we were at a little convention as we opened our business. But pet cremation and care is huge in the Northwest and is coming across the country. We offer PET machines. We're the largest providers, BioResponse is, of PET machines in the world. We have 800 PET units out there. Of course, flame crematory is used. In Oregon, we're one of the states that you can cremate humans and pets in the same unit. So what happens here in rural communities is they will cremate the humans during the week, and on the weekends they'll vacuum it out after it's cooled down, and then they will do pets through the weekend and then start back up with humans on Monday. But these aqua pet cremation units start at about 110,000. I think our largest one, 550 pounds, is $130,000. Somewhat inexpensive, I think, to get into, but something to think about. The other thing with death care, there's not a lot of laws and rules. Every state is different, but it all comes down to your ethics, your morals, and how you're going to take care of that families. Families love to have the hair clippings, the paw prints, the nose prints. It's a fascinating area. I don't know if your school visits about it, but it's an up and coming business. This is the calcium phosphate from animals. You can divide them out, do them separate. This is a monkey that we ran through my aqua cremation unit. And so again, in Oregon, we're allowed to do that. Someone asked me once at a conference, you keep saying this is 1/10 the energy, 90% less carbon footprint. What facts do you have? And you're right. I was taking what the manufacturer told me, but I did some research on the internet. And out of the Netherlands, Elizabeth Keizer did this TNO report for 2014, and she took burial. She didn't really spend time with green burial, but burial, the cement, the metals, the woods, the growing of the flowers, the driving to the funeral, people attending, took all of that into account and looked at flame cremation and then looked at aquamation. And because we don't have the human toxicity and the particulate matter, we're actually less. Now, she did it in dollars, in euros, but her other part of the report, it's a great thesis, her master's thesis. It's an 80-page, but she again shows about resumation is what it's called in Europe, but aquamation, green cremation, just even the CO2, just everything is a lot less. It's right now what we have is environmentally friendly. Flame cremation we thought was environmentally friendly. We're realizing because we weren't putting the metal, the cement in the ground, all the things, embalming fluids and others. That's why we thought it was environmentally friendly. We now realize there's other ways. And with aquamation, you can have a viewing. You can still everything be the same, just like with cremation, a little bit different. And we'll talk about that. Let's talk about the chemical, the science of it. The pioneers used to call it potash, and unlike the potash of today, but it's used in sodium hydroxide is used in making soap, rendering of animal fat. People make homemade soap. Pioneers used to take the ashes from their fire, put it in a pot, thus it got the name potash, and would add water, boil that down, and then skim off caustic lye. Potassium hydroxide. That's how we make homemade soap, but it's actually used in our beauty products. It's a potassium hydroxide is what's mainly used in the chemical that's used in aquamation, and the amount we use is 10% of body weight. So a 200-pound person, we put 20 pounds of potassium hydroxide, 80 gallons of water. But potassium hydroxide, someone asked me, well, how can this be environment friendly? Is this a chemical? And it is listed as a chemical, but the FDA has it as a food grade ingredient. It's actually used in making beer, potassium hydroxide. It's in our beauty products. It's what gives soap the power to take the dirt off your hands. That's what potassium hydroxide is. You can grab this chemical with your bare hand. As long as you're not sweating, you're not going to have an effect. If you have a little sweat, you'll start feeling the tingling. It's doing what it's made to do, and that is dissolve. And so interesting that the chemical is a food grade ingredient by the FDA, but it's used in our beauty products. So let's talk about how do you present this to families and ways to do it. I kind of got down, like I said, with the weeds. I wanted you to understand the chemical. We're going to talk about the effluent, the wastewater. But the main thing, if I can leave you with, is keep it simple. It really does sell itself once you explain to a family. And you can't say this phrase enough. It uses 1/10 the energy and 90% less carbon footprint. It's like comparing a diesel truck to a Prius, and then let them mull on that. I want to talk a little bit about, like I said, it's comparing a diesel truck to a Prius in its efficiency. Families understand that's eco-friendly. Now selling it, I came, as I looking at the machines, I went to Minnesota that had some of the machines before I purchased. I talked to 3 different funeral homes that came up with the same program, how they presented to families, but independently. They hadn't talked to each other, which I thought was fascinating. When a family comes in, they've had a death, an at-need family. What's on their mind? What's on their plate? They want to know, can I get Pastor Rob on Saturday? Are we going to be able to get the church, the chapel, or the VFW hall? Are we going to be able to get the caterer? Will they be able to get the obituary out by Monday? They have these kind of questions. And you usually know when a family comes in if it's burial or cremation, but you may not. It may come up in the discussion. Wait till the end. Wait till they've cleared their plate. You've answered their questions. Get the vital information. Get the obituary information. Plan the memorial. Plan the service. And then they're ready to hear a new idea. And this is for at-need families. You can say something to the effect, you mentioned, well, let me stop a minute, because you're excited about it. You young people coming out of school, and I've seen it. My staff was so excited about aqua cremation. They talked about it all the time. But sometimes you can do information overload. And so it's important to let the family discuss. And so you don't have that awkward moment of, oh, I overshared. Oh, and this is what we do with the wastewater. It's too much. The family may not be interested in that part of it. answer the questions to the level that they need, I guess is what I'm saying. And so you would say something to the effect, you finished the arrangement pretty much, and you say something like, you mentioned cremation. We want to let you know we have the traditional flame cremation, but we also have an eco-friendly type of cremation. It's called aquamation. It uses 1/10 the energy of flame cremation, so it leaves a 90% less carbon footprint. Be quiet. Families get it. Let them maul on that. They'll first think you're trying to sell them something. The first question, what I found, will be, okay, how much does this cost? And funeral homes are pricing it at the same price as their flame cremation. You could get $500 to $800 more a cremation. Families are willing, from my research, families are willing to pay a little extra, but they're not going to pay thousands of dollars extra. That would be a mistake. That's what happened to green burial when I got in the industry in the mid 80s. When they were really pushing green burial, the green in green burial was the dollars. It was, wow, now we can charge 10,000, 15,000 for a funeral because we have to put extra dirt every year on the grave as that body deteriorates. And it made no sense to me. And so green burial kind of went the way of the world and now is making a resurgence along with NOR, organic natural reduction. Let's talk about the effluent, fancy name for the wastewater. We use 80 gallons of water to begin the process with. There's a couple more gallons that are added or more water is used in the rinsing of the calcium phosphate. Directors have put this in Nebraska, or excuse me, Nevada, where they're very, very concerned in California, Nevada about water usage, probably in Texas also. It's about the amount of water that a family of 4 uses in a day with their washing dishes, their showering, clothes washing. So the water is used, but it's about the amount of a family of 4. The other thing is I've learned more about water waste management than I ever thought I would. Waste management does everything they can to draw out every water and recycle that. So what happens with the effluent? I had a family ask me once at the memorial, "Hey, my uncle told me that you flush this down the toilet. What do you do with this?" Well, it's recycled, and then I explained how it was recycled. That waste management will recycle it. That usually answers the question. The way we did it is I captured it in that tank I showed you, that 1,000-gallon tank, and I had a grass seed farmer and a tree farmer that I had contacted, and they come and grab that effluent because the effluent, as I said, makes a great plant nutrient. I don't use the word fertilizer because I think it's easier to tell a family a plant nutrient. It's a softer word, but it makes a great, because of the amino acid, which is the basic of plant life. People like that life cycle. And so we also offered to families, if they wanted some of the effluent, that they could get some of that effluent. We would siphon off 5 gallons of the effluent. Again, it's completely sterile. There's no RNA, there's no DNA. You could not take a sample and say that's grandma. And that's the only negative I've heard on the internet is they're flushing grandma down the toilet. Well, we are not. It does run through the waste management, or it can be used as a plant nutrient. It depends with what your firm would like to do. It's not easy to use it as a plant nutrient because it takes a lot more effort to make that happen. But in my experience, it was worthwhile. That fits my clientele and our culture here in the Northwest. But we could give a family of 5 gallons of the effluent, and that way they could bury the cremated remains, plant a tree, and then feed that tree. And also, what's nice about aquamated cremains, I've had families that have buried cremated remains, flame cremation, and go, well, our tree died. And there's so much salt in flame cremation remains that it will kill the plant sometime if it's directly. Our process actually, they will receive some nutrient from that calcium phosphate and is not as harsh on. So that's an option. Websites for funeral homes. We put it on my mortuary service, explaining it, but then I would put my clients that were using it. So the sky's the limit in marketing it and being able to get the word out. Now I talk about directors giving too much. I had a director, and I'm probably way over. I apologize. We're not quite so good. I had a director who was probably selling one a week to one of his families at the funeral home. And again, I was dependent. I didn't serve the general public with Aquamation. My clients, funeral homes, offered it to their families, and I co-opted my Aquamation. And so That's why it was important for me to train funeral directors, train pre-need people, because they're the ones that were out making it happen and bringing those decedents in. Well, he was selling one about once a week, and then all of a sudden wasn't selling. And so I saw him one day coming in, and so I just stopped him and asked him, "Hey, Greg, I see that." He says, "I do really well till I start talking about the wastewater, the effluent." And I go, "Why are you talking about the wastewater?" Did the family ask? "Well, no, I just thought they ought to know." And see, that's one of those too much information. The family's not really interested, and that's why simple is better. And I made this example. I said, "Greg, do you tell a flame cremation family that you take a long metal hook and you grab the torso of that body to make sure it's under the direct flame, and that you tap the skull to make sure that the brains are consumed?" Well, no, I wouldn't do that. Well, that's kind of the same thing, isn't it? By getting too much in the nitty-gritty details, you need to just keep it at the family's level. If a family asks what happens to the wastewater, easy, it's recycled. And then if they have another question, well, how is it? Oh, okay. Then you can give some examples, but oversharing. I want you to understand the science so you have the confidence to talk to people about it. But sometimes at-need families, pre-need families, they're not interested in the process. In our minds, we don't want to know how flame cremation works. We don't want to think about bodies burning. They don't want to think about digestion of the body, the melting of the soft tissue, the dissolving of the soft tissue. Um, the type of machines, BioResponse is a company I represent. And so I'm kind of partial. There's another group out of Scotland and England that offer it. They've made theirs look more like a crematory unit. So it is some difference, but this is that machine from my competitor up in Seattle. And to be fair, you're hearing from a competitor, same process. Theirs is very involved. This is their boiler system. Then this, where their liquid chemical is, which we use a powder chemical, and then the unit itself. So it takes up the space of almost 3 units just for one. To me, it's a lot of piping, very complicated. It's about a $500,000 machine. Ours are a little less. Our high-tech, high-pressure machine that does a body in 3 hours is 430,000. So they're not inexpensive, but they're at the price of what a flame crematory is. We have another unit that will do 4 bodies in a day, in 24 hours, and we have our low-temp unit that does 1 body a day. And that's great for a funeral home. Like when I had my small town funeral home, if I had 3 deaths a week, I was busy. And so 300 cases and under, a low temp machine, which is this machine here. We also turn our machines. You'll see that we load horizontally, but we lift to a 45-degree angle. And we do that so as the body is dissolved, that it's in the part of the chemical that we want to make sure washes over that body. And so that's why when you saw those bones being removed, it was at the end of, because we turn that at 45-degree angle. The other reason we do that, it saves the seal. That alkalinity is very harsh on the rubber seals. And so just a way to save maintenance. But ours, again, very simple machines compared to my competitor. Now, this is my machine in operation in Oregon. I've shown you a couple pieces, this a couple different angles. Here in the middle is a radiator. My plan was to put in 4 of these machines to replace my 4 flame crematories. I sold my company because I had the Aquamation. I had a company from Florida, foundation partners, come in and want to buy and they made me an offer that was just unbelievable. So I had to sell. As much as I loved my business, I was getting at that age anyway, was able to retire a little earlier. This allowed us to cool each machine down sooner, and so it saved a half hour on the process. So I added this truck radiator set on the outside. But this is what I wanted to show you here, is this is where the farmer could come and pick up his effluent out of my tank, just right outside, pull up, and then place it in his truck. Again, my name Dion Strummer. I'm with BioResponse. I'm not here to sell you anything. I want you to understand Aquamation. Families are going to be talking about it. You're going to see this over the next decade really become popular. That's my email address. I'll leave that up there for a second. I'm open to questions. If you have questions, I try to anticipate your questions, so I've tried to answer most of them. But I'm open to questions if.
Thank you, Dion, for sharing your knowledge on Aquamation. We do have 5 questions in our Q&A. Ben, if you can take control of that. But right before you do that, I would like Dr. Loris to chime in with some information real quick.
Thank you.
So I wanted to remind you all, I know in many states, they're waiting to get Aquamation legalized, right? So if
Mhm.
you, and this is with any form of disposition, if you are in a state that does not offer something like Aquamation or natural organic reduction, if a family is interested in this, the key is to collaborate and potentially forward them to a location that's outside of your state, to a state that does allow it. And I'll give you an example. Return Home, which is located in Washington State, that does natural organic reduction, 30%, I think they said, of their cases are ship ins from places where the families cannot access natural organic reduction. So just always keep that in mind. It's not necessarily impossible. It would have extra steps, but for some families, it's worth it. And they'll take those extra steps.
Thank you, Dr.
Very
Lars.
important. Yeah, very important point. I spoke at the woman who invented NOR, Katrina Spade. She's with a different group, but I've been to Rest Home, and they are anyway. The one you just mentioned, Doc, and they're very professional. They run it. It is a beautiful place, a beautiful concept and idea. As a death investigator, what I didn't understand about NOR is that those bones have to be processed. NOR takes care of the soft tissue, but then you still have the calcium phosphate. And we love bones as death investigators. That tells us a lot. We can get DNA and settle a lot of cases. So that process, they have to be actually run through a processor. They have to be dried and run through and then added back to the soil. And so that was a concept I did not understand what happened until I went to speak with Katrina Spade at a conference. We were sharing the podium on hers on NOR and mine on Aquamation. So I don't know quite how to get to questions. Can someone read them? Is that in the
Yes,
chat?
Yes, sir. I
yes,
have those
Mr.
here for
Schmidt
you.
will
Okay,
do
great.
that. But before he starts, it is 7:05. For those students that are needing to step away, you can conclude and your evening with us. We will continue with the Q&A with Mr. Schmidt. Go ahead.
Yes, just a quick note on the preon's temperature. It's 900 degrees Celsius. So crematory will kill the preons. I know that Mr.
Okay,
Stromer wasn't quite clear on that. Perhaps when he first started in this, that was a piece of information that we didn't know.
great. Great.
Okay.
What? Sorry.
Okay. So first question that we have here, Mr. Stromer says he was a medical examiner. Does that mean he is also a doctor?
Good question in Oregon, and that's very, very confusing. In Oregon, we call him a deputy medical examiner. The medical examiner is a doctor. We go out, we're the eyes and ears of the doctor at a scene. And so when I do my pictures and reports, and so Oregon just switched about 18 months ago. We start calling it MDIs, medical legal death investigators, but they're not going to give me a new badge. And and I've been so many years as a deputy medical examiner, it slips out. But actually, it's an MDI, a medical death investigator in Oregon now. Different states have a coroner system, others have a medical examiner system. But no, I am not a doctor by any means. And
All
that's
right.
one of the reasons we switched because it was confusing to families. They think I'm a doc. So I'm glad they switched actually. But anyway,
Yeah, you want to have that information clarified for everybody,
right.
right?
Yep.
It's,
Yep.
yeah. Okay, so the next question. I am excited that alkaline hydrolysis is making progress to become legal in Texas, but what is the real initial cost of replacing traditional retorts with these machines?
Good question. If you're a high volume place, I'm going to go with my highest or my cost dollar of 430,000 for the machine. It competes with a flame crematory of about 3 hour time, and it doesn't matter size or weight where with aquamation where it does with flame cremation. So to run a flame crematory, you start with your largest case of the day. So if you have a 400-pound person, that's the person you start with. That person's going to take probably 5 hours. And then as that retort is hot, then you go to the next one who's 300 or 200 or 190 pounds. And towards the end of the evening, you're working on your grandma who's 90 pounds, and they take an hour. And so you could do, and I have with my Power Pack 2 Matthews unit, I've done close to 15 lightweight people. Aquamation, you couldn't do that many. Aquamation, I can do one every 3 hours with our fastest machine. My other machine, 4 in a day, possibly 5. It takes about 6 hours, so 4 easily in a day. Um, but there's not the maintaining like a flame crematory. With a cremationist, you're there and you have to, there's things you want to check on and look at during the process. Flame cremation, you press the button and start. And if it doesn't matter if you're 90 pounds or 500 pounds, and that machine will hold a 500-pound person, and people are getting bigger. It was not uncommon with my mortuary service. We handled 800 pounds, 600-pound people during the month, and so it's not uncommon. And so even my flame crematory, the largest person I did was 998 pounds. It's rated for 1,000. Now I couldn't have done that in my Aquamation because it's rated for 550 pounds. The reason I bring weight and times up is because it doesn't matter your size in Aquamation. The amount of chemical we use, it's going to take 3 hours. Doesn't matter if you're 90 pounds, which takes an hour in a hot unit, flame crematory, or if you're 500 pounds, it's going to take 5-6 hours in a flame crematory. Did I answer the question? I kind of get off on tangents. I don't mean to do that.
I didn't hear a dollar amount. I think people were
good.
looking for, yeah.
430,000. My next machine that does the 4 a day is 230,000. And then our low temp machine, the one that does it four in a day is 330,000. 430, 330, and 230. The low temp machines, 230,000. So then you have cost of, I need to put in some on-demand hot water heaters. The hotter you have your water to begin with, the faster the process goes. So you have some build out costs. So that's the cost of the machine. Then you're going to have, so my machine with my build out, I had about 350,000. The machine and then the build out to add the plumbing, the electrical that I needed. And so that kind of gives you a rough estimate, 350, maybe to $500,000 to set up Aquamation. But that would be the same if you're doing flame, if you're starting from scratch and setting it up.
Well, and kind of the question was the cost of replacing cremation machines. So you would have to remove the infrastructure that you have for your crematory,
Yeah.
and then replace it with the methods of the aquamation. Now, obviously, you could probably sell some of your cremation units as used
Yeah,
ones,
you could
right?
sell them on the used market, and especially if it needed to be re-bricked or something, you sell it cheap. My thing was I just wanted them out, and that was partly because of where the laws in Oregon were going. But yeah, yeah, setting it up, the expenses, or taking it out, one way or the other, their cost that way.
Okay, so the next question I have for you, I think this is a good one. Um, Based on the environmental studies that you showed us, how much
Mhm.
offset is there for a ship-in case? Would it still be environmentally profitable or positive? Sorry.
Mhm. To ship, you said?
Yeah, for a ship-in case. So, like, say
Yeah,
for
yeah.
example, we go from
Every time
Texas to
you,
Oklahoma.
yeah. So every time anything you add onto that, if you're transporting by car, again, there's fossil fuel use. That would add to the environmental impact. Definitely. Does it reach to where flame cremation is? I haven't seen anybody do that study, but you would have added cost shipping. And again, if you're going to send it on a plane, your NOR. People are doing it for environmentally friendly, but they're flying it to Seattle. Again, the cost and carbon and things that are used. So if you're a true uh, uh, green person, yeah, the less you have to transport or do that, it is going to be less. I will say on cost, the chemical, the water, the electricity. When I sold my unit in 2020, or my business, so it was 5 years ago numbers, it cost me at that time $85 a case to cremate. That's my gas costs and those things. Now, if it was today, because of the gas price, the war in Iran, that's going to be a lot more. To aqua cremate, it cost me $60. So it actually cost me less to run Aquamation in the long run. Plus, I don't have to set aside the dollars to re-brick, rebuild, and the maintenance. Though I'm not saying these machines are maintenance free, but I never had any big problems in the time. And I ran 1,200 Aquamations through my unit before I sold it in the time that I had it. Yeah, I think I've answered it, I hope.
Okay, next question. He showed an image and mentioned the propeller helps circulate the water in the tank. Seeing the
Mhm.
holes in the cage, my question is, do the bone fragments fall through the holes and end up being ground up by the propeller?
Yeah, good question. So the cage usually catches any of the large seas. There's not that there's not bone matter that is solidified or is that the word that's suspended in the water. There could be very small that's suspended, and we actually have a filter when that pumps out that filters out any of that bone dust. It's just like in a flame crematory. You can't get all the cremated remains from every brick opening. You have co-mingling of remains. Here you don't have the co-mingling. We've taken those out. We wash that unit out, but there is some suspension of the very fine dust and things or particles in the water. So to say that we've gotten everything in the cage, no. Again, being tilted, and that's why that water being moved just helps keep that flow as also water is washing down on the decedent, so that that uh, dissolving can happen.
So based on your experience, and obviously you own both a crematory and a aquamation, what
Mhm.
was the price difference between a flame cremation and an aqua cremation?
Good question. My firms, I had encouraged them as I went out to teach funeral directors and the owners, I encouraged them to charge $500 to $800 more. But they felt it was confusing to their staff. Let's just have it the same price. So it's really up to the owner what they want to price it at. I believe families, my experience talking to women's group, Lions clubs, Rotary clubs about it, I'll ask the people, what do you think this costs? And they think it's thousands of dollars more. When I let them know that it's $500 to $800 more, that was a slam dunk to them. Oh, well, that's not bad at all. So you can get, because it's environmentally friendly, I would encourage you to get a little bit more. But if you price it thousands of dollars over, you're never going to sell it. People will go with the less cost. In Oregon, most of the firms have gone with the same price for both. Even
Okay,
though, even though,
interesting.
even though in my flame crematory, um, um, be, be, because of the sheer amount, and I worked on the economy of scale. This is more business than you want, but the economy of scale, because I did 6,000 calls a year, 4,000 cremations, I will come to your funeral home in a tri-county area, basically a 40-mile area. I'll come to your funeral home, pick up your decedent, bring it back to my mortuary service, cremate that individual, and have those ashes back to you in 36 hours, all for $225. You couldn't afford to own a crematory. Why would you want to buy a $500,000 piece of equipment when you co-op it with me? Uh, and the whole idea is you can't afford not to use me. I'm so cheap. So, and the reason I'm able to get away with that is just the sheer economy, the sheer number I did. So in my aqua cremation, I charged $200 more. I was $425 for aquamation. Again, I had the expense of the machine and I had put it in and I wanted a faster return on investment. So I upped it a little bit. Funeral homes still charged the same, even though they were paying me $200 more. Does that make sense?
Yeah, oh yeah,
Okay.
absolutely. Because it's kind of like they just had it built into their own cost, so to speak,
Yep.
right?
Yep. And so
Uh,
they absorbed even the extra cost. But I know here in the Midwest, cremations run about $1,895 to $3,000, depending on the firm. And then that's for your basic direct cremation, no services. Aquamation would run the same, 1895, the cost to the family up to 3,000. I've seen it both. Firms are matching the price for their flame and aqua.
okay, let's see here. Can the machine be loaded with the standard lift table, or does it require a special lift table?
Nope, standard lift table. Um, uh, Yeah, and we have a little tray that goes with it. I don't again didn't point it out in that little video, but it was running on some Teflon rods to the metal, so we don't have metal on metal scraping. But that's just we place that on top of your lift table, your decedent table, and then it can roll right out onto that. And I actually had two cages, so the basket, so that I could have one decedent ready to go right in as we pulled one out. We didn't have to wait to take those cremated, or excuse me, the calcium phosphate, the bones out. I could have a decedent all ready to go. And something I failed to mention, which I think is important to understand, is that aquamation, you go in the way we came into this world. naked as the day is long. It does not eat cotton or polyesters. So a body has to be undressed. Now, it will do wool and it will do leather, but we offer to families placement viewings where they could push the basket in of their loved one. We'll shut the door. They can press the button. It's kind of anticlimactic because the machine is about as loud as a dishwasher. It doesn't make any noise. A hot water hose might wiggle. And I've had families ask, well, is it running? Yep, I can see the hot water moving. So it's very quiet compared to a flame crematory. You place that decedent in, you press that button, and it's going. So with that placement viewing, we always use hospital gowns. Always a body's in a hospital gown for its modesty. But we also offered to families a coarse silk, not your shiny silk, but a coarse silk shroud if they felt they wanted their loved one wrapped. But most families were fine with a hospital gown. They could say their goodbyes to their family member, and then they help push the basket in and then start the machine. So I mentioned that because of the placement viewing. Also, autopsy cases, you need to remove that biohazard bag. So for those that might not know, when a body comes back from a medical exam or your coroner, it's been autopsy, usually inside is the viscera is placed in a biohazard bag, one of the red bags, and then sutured into the torso. So that has to be opened up. Those bags need to be poured out back into it's a simple process, just grabbing the bag and then pouring that. It's not a bloody mess. And then that bag is sent in the biohazard because uh, alkalinity will not dissolve those bags. And so that has to be removed. So there is that extra step. And then that can add some, like I said, I trained my office staff. They could even place a decedent in and start the machine, but they could not have done an autopsy case. In Oregon, that requires an embalmer. So that's just a little different by state law. And I should have mentioned that during the process. So some of those have left. I apologize, but it does take a little more care with an autopsy case.
Well, I'm just glad to know that my leather jumpsuit will make it through.
Yep,
Uh,
yep.
so, someone here asks, would I be correct in saying that the low temp machine would be a good option for a small town funeral home who may do about 150 calls a year and would like cremation versus setting up a flame-based setup? Would this be more easily able to be incorporated in the existing building without needing a new separate build space?
Very good question. I've had them set up in garages, and you're right. 300 cases and under. Let's say you're doing a case a day, that's 365 in a year. So I'm saying 300 cases and under. Low temp works really well. It's $230 machine, not inexpensive by any means, but it handles a small town very well. And if you do 150 cases a year, even some of your competitors or those down the road from you may want to use you. So thinking that you might add being able to offer that to maybe a type of competitor in your area. I mean, you don't have to, but a lot of guys have taken from out of town, territorial wise. But you're exactly right. It's a perfect fit. The low temp machine. They're less expensive. Take a look. Take about 16, 18 hours to run a body. But again, you set it at night. You come back in the day, and it's ready to be processed. The bones to be dried, and the process done and ready for another body. So that great observation. That's perfect. That low temp is perfect for a small town funeral home.
Okay, and one last question about the law in Texas. Do you know where we stand on the law in Texas? Maybe Mrs. Scott, you have a little bit of insight for us on what's going on with Aquamation in Texas.
Yes, it's been on legislation or in legislation for the past few years. I see that the question is, what is the reason as to why we're not doing it in Texas? It's basically shortage of water. So that's a big concern because we are always put on restrictions, especially during summertime. And with restrictions on when we can water, our gardens and usage and stuff. So that's a big concern when aquamation is being brought to the table.
And I can
Surprisingly, that
go
same
ahead.
discussion happens in California, even where it is legal there. But because they're often in drought conditions, it's not as popular as green burial or traditional cremation.
Right, as in Nevada, they're very sensitive about the water, and I get that, but again, it's understanding. I think a lot of it's education of understanding about how much is used, and then actually that's used, but what are they able to reclaim? I've never seen a study on that on wastewater. What are they able to reclaim back into the system? I guess that's some research I'd like to do, but it's fossil fuel or water too. Yeah, I mean. Yeah, I guess you pick your poison sometime of what to do there. But there has been states where Washington's a good example. Washington was a couple of years behind Oregon because the church took a stand on they did not under they felt like there was separation of the body. Once we were able to explain flame cremation, there's also that mercury separation of matter that goes into the air, just like the matter that goes into the water that's sterilized. Then the church, when it came up the second time to the legislature, did not come out for it, but did not come out against it. They took a neutral stance. And so sometimes religious, just as much cremation, flame cremation does, churches are changing. I've seen more Jewish families cremate than I ever have, more LDS families cremate than they ever have. Even the Catholic Church has taken a stand on cremation that it's okay. And so it's time, culture, and again, water use all play into the factor of why states haven't done it. Texas should have it. I know you're more traditional, but it would take young people, or excuse me, directors, people on your state board getting involved to help push that legislation. And if the reason is the water, I think that can easily be explained.
Okay. Thank you very much. That's all our questions that we have for you. Mrs. Scott, if you want to take it from here.
Whoops, sorry. Whoop. My bad.
Yes, well,
Can I
thank
just
you.
explain this? Since
Oh,
I
sure.
went there, you'll wonder what the heck is this? Actually, many of you, who do you know this woman as? Rosie the Riveter. There's thousands of Rosie the Riveter. I get it. This is actually Naomi Faley. She was the original uh, Rosie the Riveter. This is the picture that they made the poster out of, and she came into my facility to be cremated, and I felt like she needed a flag. And someone asked me. Sometimes students ask, "Who's the most famous person you took care of?" Well, mine is Rosie the Riveter, Naomi Fraley, out of Battleground, Washington, and so it was a great honor to do that for her. But again, it was an honor to visit with all of you folks. I appreciate it. I'll turn it back to you, Mrs. Scott.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Dion, for all of your knowledge, for taking the time to share that with our students this evening. And we will, just a little insight,
Oh,
we
thank you.
will have him again in the fall, and we have a new topic that he will be talking to us about in the fall. So for now, I say goodbye, and we'll see you guys soon.
Thank you for your time this evening. Bye bye. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Miss Olga, I have a question for you real quick, if that's okay.
Sure, go ahead.
So,
Hold on,
um,
hold on. Give me a second. Wait 1 second.
I'm gonna, yeah, there we go. Thank